Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back from commercial, and welcome to day 3 of PSIfest 2023 here in Charlottesville, Virginia, brought to you by the International Remote Viewing Association and Monroe Institute this year. Our guest in this segment is Pam Coronado. She is actually a psychic detective, and you have a popular TV series as well. What is the name of the series?
Sensing Murder.
Wow. Now, first off, let's start at the beginning. When did you find out that you had this ability? Was it an ability you came to naturally or through training?
Both. So
Okay.
started naturally. I was an adult. I had a family. I had kids, husband, dogs, the whole thing. Normal lifestyle. And I started having dreams. So one night I had a dream that I was in the back seat of a car. And there was a man driving the car and his girlfriend. And I recognized this man to be my husband. Only this wasn't my husband. This is a man I've never seen before.
Sure.
But in the dream, I knew this was my husband. And I realized that they were about to kill me. And so I was driving in this backseat of this car knowing I'm in serious trouble. And look out the window and I see an angel. And she's motioning for me to come. So,
Wow.
like Peter Pan, I did. Flew off, like, take me.
Yeah.
And I looked back at the car, and I could see the car, and I could see the road they were driving on. And I told no one. I told no one.
Okay.
So I thought, people are going to think I've lost my mind.
Yeah.
So 3 days later, I'm looking in the newspaper, and all of a sudden, there's a picture of the man in my dream. And his wife is missing.
Wow.
And I was able to help them find her body.
That is incredible, Pam. That is what an amazing story.
Crazy story.
Like that is literally wheels hit the ground running.
Yes, and I thought I was going to do something else with my
Now,
life.
had this ever happened to you before in your life? How old were you when this occurred?
I was like 30.
Wow.
Yeah, no.
Wow. Never had you ever done any dream work, astral projection?
I mean, I'd always
like
had
that?
active dreams my whole
Okay.
life. I've always had
Sure.
a lot of really vivid active dreams.
Yeah.
But, I came from a super, super religious upbringing. And so we didn't talk about those things.
Sure. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was all just shocking and upsetting and mesmerizing that this thing turned out to be real. There's something from having
Yeah.
a dream to it turning into real.
Yes. I say it on the show regularly. I build things in my sleep.
Oh,
And
cool.
if I have the parts, like I build them when I'm awake. Like
Yes.
if I see
Yeah,
a piece
yeah.
of gear in a dream that
Yeah.
I can build, like I literally did it last week.
That is very cool.
So yes, very much the same thing. Now, how do you process that information? Because of course our dreams typically, our dreams are very much our unprocessed reality from the day. We go autonomically through so much. Our brain just reacts karate style, and most of it just shoves out of the way, and that's what our dreams are, is the resolution of that kind of stuff mixed with filter of life, things like that, wants, desires. But how do you differentiate from a normal dream
It's a good question.
to that kind of dream, Pam?
I always say there's a aspect of it that's real, meaning you're not walking along the street and all of a sudden you're flying or you're swimming in a lake or it's very
Reading a book with no words.
Yeah, it's all of a sudden there's a quality to it that's realistic. If I wake up and go, yeah, that could happen, then I know, this may actually be, more of a precognitive thing.
Okay. And do you keep a journal of these things as they happen and keep your eyes out? Do you have...
Here's a good one. Here's
Okay.
a good one. So this is just kind of relevant to the conference. It's just
All right.
silly,
Sure.
but it's funny. So I had a dream about a week before the conference that they asked me to be in a conga line, and they wanted me to wear this goofy tinfoil dress.
Okay.
So I wake up and go, oh boy, what's going to happen at the IRVA conference?
Maybe I'll just show up for my talk.
And I'm like, you know what? I have a broken leg. I'm not doing the conga. So sure enough, they
Talent show night.
they did the talent night, and they all start saying, line up behind Tom. And I didn't realize that I let David Silverman dress me, and he had put this cape on me and a boa that was gray color, kind of looked like foil.
Wow.
And all of a sudden I'm like, we're doing a conga, and I'm dressed in this
silver
weird thing.
stuff. Wow. And yeah, like you said, it's a different feeling. It's a different feeling for you. And how do you associate that when you come out of the dream state?
I usually just record it. I'm very, adamant about journaling these things, and a lot of times they don't make sense in the moment. They seem nonsensical. I think that's why people discount their dreams, because they're nonsensical in the moment. Yeah. But if you look at your dream journal 3 months down the road and you go, oh,
yeah, no, I used to have dreams about friends in college and tell them about things, and they'd come back a couple weeks later like, wow, man, that's weird. Now to this day, even still, when I have a dream about somebody, like I text him like, hey man, you doing all right?
I do too.
Had a dream about your dad last night, man. Everything cool?
Yeah.
All right, just making sure.
I'll do that too.
Because I did dream work for many, many years. The idea of following my meditation guide.
I studied under Alan Vaughn, so Alan Vaughn was my first mentor.
Wow!
Because somebody introduced him to me when I was having all of these dreams, and really was being murdered a lot in my dreams. And I was like, you got to help me.
And I was going to say, how do you process that? Because one of the things we talk about with Lynn Buchanan is, of course, getting into the world of psychic detective work. And is that something you really want written the spare space in your head?
Right.
At the time, are you ready to deal with that visceral emotional connection with a victim that's about to happen to you? And not much like not every cop can be a murder detective. Not every cop can go see a body every day, man.
That's correct.
Like even murder detectives go to therapists regularly. Even they see things in their dreams because of their jobs. So.
Correct.
How do you process that? How do you actively, I guess, clear that from you?
Yeah, people ask me that all the time. And
that's thick.
One thing that they don't realize is that I compartmentalize things.
Okay.
So when I'm working on a case, I am focused on a task. I'm focused on describing a person, or describing a location of a missing person, or describe a car or a weapon. Or I compartmentalize it a lot, so I'm not really spending so much time in the horrors of it.
In the victim's mode, so to speak.
And I try now to not jump into the victim's mode or the perpetrator's mode. I want to just be a witness, like Lynn likes to say, a silent witness.
That's right.
I just like to watch from back here and observe.
Yeah, observe and take notes.
And then only the event itself, it's a need to know basis. If they know all that stuff, I don't have to relive it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. You don't have to go through all of the horrible things that somebody went through if they've already figured that out.
Right.
And that's absolute truth. You don't have to go digging where you don't need to go digging.
Right. I don't want to carry that stuff around if I don't have to.
And when and if it does leak through, how do you clear that from you? Because like you said, when you're working on something, you're compartmentalizing, but we all forget to till something in our garden, or you till the weed right under the soil. You know what I mean? So
for me, it's nature. The more time I spend in nature, the better.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know this about me, but I actually coach basketball.
Oh, awesome.
So spending time with normal kids who are not in trauma. They're just happy kids.
Happy kids having fun doing kid things.
That's my thing that just brings me right back.
That is fantastic. That's great to hear.
That and nature.
That is really awesome. And now, how did you come about, because of course you came to this when you were 30, how did you, because the one person introduced you to your first mentor, how many people have you studied with to get to the point where you are now?
Oh my gosh. So I studied with Alan Vaughn, who was a really well-known parapsychologist and dream researcher. And then Bevy Jiggers, who had a group called the USI Squad, and she taught active policemen how to use their own intuition.
Awesome.
And I trained with them as a group. And then I went on to study with Lynn Buchanan, Lori Williams, Paul Smith. I think I've had
so you've taken classes from pretty much everybody we've interviewed almost.
Yeah. Yes. Hours and hours and hours of classes.
But that's fantastic, though, to know that despite your natural psychic ability, that you have come to a protocol.
Yes.
Like remote viewing. Now, when you're viewing, which modality of viewing do you prefer to use?
Depends on the project.
Okay.
It depends on what they need from me. But if it's a missing persons location, CRV hands down.
Okay.
I'm going to do a full CRV session, formal CRV session.
Yeah.
But if they're just wanting me to describe a perpetrator or something, I'll just do that in clairvoyant mode.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess one of the questions I ask psychics, mediums, even empaths, how do you filter things in the world around you? Because I'm sure that's hard. I'm sure it can be very hard to not walk into a room and feel everybody.
The bubble.
Okay.
Yeah, the bubble. So if you ever imagine Glinda the Good Witch, she floats around in a pink bubble.
Yeah.
That's me.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of the sphere of white light concept.
And it's not that I'm rejecting people. I just don't want their energy. So it's like you be in yours and I'll be in mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just have a little protective.
All right. Yeah. All right. Interesting. Because one of the things I like to do on the show is demystify things. And there are a lot of misunderstandings and misconceptions when it comes to remote viewing and the processes of remote viewing.
Yes.
And even the fact of your precognitive dreams are not necessarily remote viewing.
Right. Correct.
You use the remote viewing to confirm your precognitive dreams. Yeah?
They're kind of separate.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of separate.
And now when you do have a precognitive dream, what's your process? Do you contact like your buddy at the police department? Anything like that?
No.
You see it pop up in the news and it's in your journal.
Right.
How do you move that process forward once something has linked up between local news or national news and what you've seen?
So I'm a lot less likely to do that now that I'm more conscious. Now that I'm more conscious working with my intuition and I'm less likely to have too many dreams about, world disasters and stuff. I still do.
Oh.
Right before I started having dreams, right before Ukraine was invaded. Wow. So I started having dreams about being I had one dream in particular, and I kept trying to tell everybody, and they were all looking at me like
you had three eyes?
Yeah. And I mean, like people here. But I was like, something's getting ready to happen. Something's getting ready to happen.
Yeah.
And they said, what? And I said, well, I had this dream that I was actually sitting in some sort of an army truck, and I was a passenger, and all of a sudden I saw this explosion in front of us and that dirt wave coming at us. And it was coming right at us. Ooh. And there was no time for us to get out of the way, and it blew our vehicle backwards, but we stayed upright. It didn't flip us over. And I knew I was a soldier in this dream. And wow. And then after it was over, we were all checking on each other. Are you okay? Are you okay? And we were all okay. And so I kept telling people, I'm like, I don't feel like I was here in the U.S., but I don't know where I was. But I'm telling you, there's going to be something. And that was just right before that invasion.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, that is...
But what do you do with that when you don't
I was
know
gonna
where
say,
it is? You don't know where it is.
How do you process that? How do you, once again, compartmentalize something like that? Right. Because dreams can be very disturbing, and they can stick with
They
you.
can be very real.
They can be very real, very,
Yes.
very real.
Yeah.
To the point of like physicality can happen from dreams.
Yeah.
So, have you ever had any situation like that from a dream? Where something has maybe come through, or you were wounded in a dream and woke up with
Not in the dream, but I've had
woke
it
up with a
happen
bruise?
I had it happen when I was filming Sensing Murder. So we were filming Sensing Murder, and it happened where they sat me down at the table, and they'd done all my hair and makeup, unlike today. I'm putting that in there, my raw form. And my nose started bleeding. And not my nose, but the top of my nose.
Oh,
and
wow.
they couldn't get it to stop. And it was actually holding up production. And my nose is just bleeding. And once I go, wait a minute. Because all the cases I was totally blind to.
Yeah.
And I said, just tell me if the victim was hit in the face. And they said, yes, she was bashed in the face. And I said, okay. And then I was able to let it go, and it stopped. But that was a real manifestation of... I was like, okay,
And that's on film? Or was that all pre-production?
That was pre-production. Yeah.
Man, that is remarkable, though.
That was crazy.
Because I've heard cases of that. I've heard cases of people coming back with bruises from dreams because they were in a fight, things like that. And sure, there's 101 ways. Hey, maybe you were sleepwalking and you bumped into something. Who knows? But not in that case. You were surrounded by and the production crew is not light. You're talking a good 15, 20 people walking around on a proper set.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And they were like, what is going on? You know, so they were all...
Yeah. What has it been like for you? Because I've talked to a few people who've had
we've got
our
the
friend.
fly. We have
We've
a
got
friend.
a friend. I've talked to a few people who've had the reality TV shows in the paranormal world, things like that. What is it like for you to translate this to that world?
Say that again?
Well, what's it like for you to translate your skills, your abilities to a television production? Because sometimes, and many of the paranormal investigators I know that had shows that don't anymore are like, oh, God, I think every day that I don't do that show anymore.
Yeah,
man.
it was hard.
Because unfortunately, there's some like zazz that has to be put in there. They're not going to show the fact that out of a 14-hour investigation, there was nothing found.
Yep. Right.
They aren't going to have a nothing found episode on Discovery Channel.
That's what I always say.
There's going to be the verve.
It's a highlights show. It still happened. Everything I did was live.
Okay.
So I would walk in not knowing
awesome.
the case.
That's
at all.
awesome.
I'd meet the detective on camera. We'd sit down, go through their case. And that was all live.
That's great.
So
way to go,
very
producers.
Stressful.
That's awesome.
Very stressful to have them go lights, camera, action.
Read.
Be psychic.
And go somewhere else.
But I learned how to do that under pressure. I really learned how to just pull in fact, I have a funny story about that.
Talk about discipline.
They sat me in front of the cameras in one particular case, and they hand me some keys to do psychometry on, and I'm getting nothing. Right? My biggest fear. Sit there and go, I don't know.
They're cold?
And I'm like, I don't know. So I said, you know what? Can I just go out in the hallway and take a little walk for a second? So I excuse myself. I go out in the hallway in the hotel. I'm walking, pacing back and forth, and I'm giving myself a pep talk. You do this all the time. Knock it off. Sit down and do this job.
You got this.
Just stop it. Just sit down and do your job. And I'm really giving myself a talking to. I go back in there, grab those keys, and I go. Right? Well, the detective decides, it was such a drastic change in me, he decides that I must have talked to somebody out in the hallway. And I'm like, I did talk to somebody out in the hallway myself.
Yeah.
But they actually checked the footage from the cameras to see if I came out there to
get information
to
from
talk to
somebody else about the keys. Wow.
and I'm like,
Wow.
no, it was all self-talk.
me.
It was like getting myself together. Yeah.
Wow. What an incredible story.
Yeah.
And where can everybody watch the show?
It's still available. Sometimes it's on Netflix and sometimes it's on Amazon Prime. It kind of jumps back and forth. The people get confused because there's a New Zealand version. So they'll go, I watched the whole thing and I never saw you. And I'm like, I'm in all the episodes. You can't miss me. So I think we did 11 episodes. So you're not going to miss me. But make sure you're watching the USA
That
version.
is remarkable. Yeah. And how do people get in touch with you if they have a missing person in their family or something that they need help with?
So I only work with families, that immediate family members, not like some distant cousin or an immediate family member or law enforcement. My website, pamcoronado.com. They can easily see how to connect with me there on a case.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I know I just kind of like grabbed you while you were grabbing coffee. I was like, hey, I see you're doing nothing. Come on over here.
I see you're trying to get some coffee.
Yeah, I see you're trying to relax. Come be on camera. Seriously, thank you for taking the time. Your presentation yesterday was fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
And your work is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Totally amazing. One more time, look at the camera, give them your website.
I'm Pam Coronado, www.pamcoronado.com.
Awesome. Well, Pam, thank you so much once again. While you're online checking out everything from Pam Coronado, everybody, make sure to stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is where you can find all the shows. That's where you can find our knowledge vault full of declassified government documents. That is where you can fill out our experiencer form. If you're an experiencer of the paranormal, if you have remote viewed something that is world-shaking, world-changing, get in touch with us. CuriousRealm.com/story. Send us your case. We will present it to our professionals and try to get you some answers. Stay tuned through this commercial break for continuing coverage of the last day of PSIfest 2023 here in Charlottesville, Virginia with the International Remote Viewing Association and Monroe Institute. We'll be right back after this. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to our continuing coverage of the final day of PSIfest 2023 here in Charlottesville, Virginia. We are joined by Johua Louis. We had you on for Finding Hope.
Yeah.
It's great to see you here, number one. I thought it was really interesting to see paranormal work coming into this, coming into the world, and coming into the world of remote viewing. Well, I mean, we were just talking with Pam Coronado about the concept of precognitive dreaming, things like that, and how it's different from remote viewing.
Yeah.
But that led her to the world of remote viewing.
Interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
And even the conversation you were just having a second ago as I pulled you over here regarding working on a remote viewing case and asking your spirit guides to help you with that.
Yep.
How have you, number one, how have things been going with Hope Paranormal?
Good. I mean, I'm just, just trying to improve the programs I'm working on that we're using, the Hope Spirit Box app and the HSB Pro, and trying to get that going. It was really great yesterday being able to share the work that I've been doing with a group that I'm not, may not be at first kind of open to what I'm showing all the way, but people received it pretty well, I felt.
I would think so. Well, I mean, especially when there's a demonstration about influencing a random number generator last night. So I can't see how they wouldn't be able to possibly influence your materials, influence your systems, things like that, which I'm sure is one of the great curiosities you have about the marriage of your technology and remote viewing.
Yep. I mean, I love remote viewing. I've done some with Deborah before, and I've been very successful with the targets that I was viewing. I've done some astral projection. I've done some telekinesis, some PK work. So all of that stuff was because of kind of working with Deborah and testing all these different areas and seeing what I could do, what I could affect.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because one of the things we discuss regularly is the concept of not just paranormal, ghost spirits, things like that, not exist. But is it the fact of when you bring a group of people into a location like you did last night, is their preconceived notion of that manifesting what's there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. You know, last night we did an investigation, kind of a loose investigation.
Sure.
It really wasn't like an actual paranormal investigation. It's more of like we're going to do sessions and trying to, you know, the paranormal investigation, sometimes it's a lot of sit and wait and do nothing and wait for something to happen.
No, that's just it. Like you could be there 12, 14 hours, 3 days in a row.
You're
and
waiting for something to
get
move.
EVP, nothing.
Right. I'm going in with the intent of we want to communicate.
Yeah.
We're coming with love and respect. We're not trying to kick you out. We're not trying to figure everything out. We just know some of you may want to have a voice or want to, you know. And so I go in there and, you know, with just a few hours, we had 30 people or whatever it was. I did some initial sessions and we got some instant direct communication. I mean, it was a woman. She was polite. She was answering us. And then after, you know, I'd say 10 minutes, I said, is there anything else that you want to say? And through the app, she said, no, thank you very much. Very kind, you know, and we kind of felt okay to now move about to the other areas of the house. And people started breaking off into pods, you know, of 5 or 4.
Sure.
And they started using my app. And they'd come running back out in the hallway. They just said this. They just said that. We got this, you know. So everyone started getting their own communication with a spirit or two somewhere in the house. Because there was more than one. I mean, there was plenty of spirit,
well,
you know.
I mean, they're all around us all the time.
Right.
They're all around us all the time.
Right.
To think otherwise is silly.
Yeah.
You know, it's like saying, nah, that atom isn't there.
Right.
No, like, so when you're using the app specifically, how do you go about setting that up and getting it prepped to start a session?
It's great. It's a great question. So, again, the app has no words in it. Period. There's no words in the app. So all the sounds that are built in, the sound sources are just gibberish sounds that sound like human. They're human sounds, but no words. So, you know, again, the only way this really works is by tapping into our own intuitive ability. And so some say, "Oh, I'm not psychic. I don't know what I have." You do. You all have that.
Yeah.
Everyone has it, whether you've discovered it or not,
Our
whether it's
brains
super strong.
They're just big transducers.
That's really the case.
They're big radio signals.
Right.
It's a big antenna.
The heart and the brain are there's a receiving an antenna and receiving situation going on there. So initially, we have to just make some kind of initial connection or attempt to connect in a way of just saying, you know, I have to close my eyes. I have to look into my mind's eye in the space around me and see if I'm feeling anyone coming in. Is it male? Is it female? Is it older? Is there something going on? Got to at least make a little attempt. And then you can choose one of the sound banks I have that's a man and woman voice mixture, because you don't know who you're getting maybe.
Sure.
Or you may say, hey, I feel a woman. And if you feel a woman, then you want to choose a woman sound bank.
Okay.
And then put that on and say, hey, I'm feeling a woman. I feel maybe an initial of an E or a whatever, you know, and then you open it up and you try it and you give a couple responses. A lot of times you're not going to hear everything in real time. So you really kind of have to go off some of your ability, maybe what you hear, but know that you're really there collecting data and you're going to go home later on and check it out. And that's where a lot of the gold is found.
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah.
And what is the process of analyzing that data once you get it back home from the app?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just making sure you're in a quiet space. Normally, I don't like to review the footage or any of it that day or night of. So I'd like to get to the next day and removed from any kind of feeling that I felt there.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a fresh ears, fresh mind.
Good.
And it's going to take a couple days because you're going to listen to some stuff, think you hear something, think you see something or whatever it is.
Yep.
You need to leave it alone again for another day or so and go back to it.
Yeah.
And that's how I do it. And then I just, that's how I go about it because I feel I'm a lot more thorough and objective when reviewing.
That's right. Well, I mean, I used to tell bands I recorded the same thing whenever I'd hand them the CD or DVD, like, don't go home and watch this.
Yeah.
You will destroy yourself tonight.
Yeah,
You will destroy yourself. Don't do that.
Same premise,
Don't watch it tomorrow. Like, get together at rehearsal Wednesday.
Be fresh.
And watch it.
Yeah.
Watch
I
it
like
with
that.
totally fresh eyes.
true.
And it's the same thing because if you, even the next day, even 2 days later, like, you may still be jazzed about something that you experienced there, something like that, and it will color your result.
I agree.
It will color your result.
I agree.
And that's always an issue that I've had watching any paranormal show with people, things like that, where they're reviewing for, rewind that. No.
Yeah.
No. Like, I'm sorry, folks. That's done for the show, for Verve,
It's
and
really
everything else. But
it's like urgency and stuff. It's not needed when you're doing this. You really want to take your time.
Well, and like you said, objectivize it. You want to be as far removed from it as possible.
Right.
Do you ever go through and swap that data with somebody else to? Instead of looking
peer
at your
review,
own data. Well, I mean, even without looking at yours, hand it over to somebody else to look at first.
No, I got to be honest. I don't do that.
Okay.
There's very few that I'm going to be honest. There's very few that I could trust where I respect or value their opinion in evidence review.
All right.
I think there's a lot of people out there. I'm going to be honest. I think there's a lot of people out there, and I don't knock them. I'm not condemning anyone. I think there's a lot of people interested in doing this kind of thing and starting to do it. But I listen and I'm going, if you're not slowing down, if you're not at least trying to isolate these things, if you're not trying to display it in a way that it's a little bit more helpful for us to understand it. A lot of people aren't going to understand what they're watching. So, I mean, maybe there is some value in just releasing the raw footage, and I think that that's cool too. I'm not knocking that.
No, absolutely not.
But I think it kind of does ITC an injustice too. If you're not, if someone goes onto my channel and they watch any of my sessions, they should get a really nice picture, an understanding in a 10 or 15 minute video of what I just did in that session.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there isn't going to be long swaths of nothing. I do cut out a lot of dead air so that you don't have a 45-minute video of nothing going on.
Sure.
It's not to entertain you, but just to at least let you get to what's important in the session that I found.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, because I mean, you've got to get to the point of processing at some point.
Yeah.
You've got to move that along. So
I believe that. Yeah.
I see that absolutely for the videos that you're making. The reason you're making them.
Yeah.
I've always found the techniques that some people use in the field a little spurious, and like you said, it's hard to trust a lot of people. I've lost a lot. I mean, there's a lot less people that I follow now than I used to. Yeah, because it's just I've kind of seen, and I kind of hate that. Is that a disillusionment on you?
I got to tell you, it's caused me to feel a little uninspired at times, or just a little disheartened. Yeah, I mean, it's like.
It's kind of like the infightings within the community.
It really
things
is.
like that. Where
we were kind of talking about that yesterday a little bit.
We are helping none of this community or the research it's trying to do by doing this.
I agree.
None.
I agree.
None. Like the crazy people that were emailing the NASA panel.
Yeah, right.
Before it happened,
right.
That's going to help. That'll help get the scientists aboard.
Right. I mean,
that's going to.
It's hard, man. I got to tell you, I love this work, and it's so rewarding, and it's beautiful. But when I keep away from people sometimes, and I just kind of stay to what I'm doing, and or I get to come around some good people that I trust, that I feel re-inspired, re-energized, then it's great. But when it's dealing with certain aspects of this can be really crappy sometimes, I guess. Yeah. And it's the human aspect. It's not the spirit side.
No. Yeah, exactly. It's not the spirits that are the a-holes.
Yeah. I agree, man. Yep.
And with that in mind, how often is it that you maybe find a malignant spirit or anything like that?
That's a good question. You know, in the beginning, I used to find more.
Okay.
I used to get more. I used to come in contact, I believe, with more. As time progressed and I made my intention clearer and I set my intention in a clearer way, and I just don't get the riffraff much.
All right.
If I do get someone or I get something negative, it's more on a human spirit level where it's more like their personality and they're not dealing with something well on the other side. And they may be sometimes critical of how I'm running the session. They may say, you're not hearing me, you're not listening, or I'm, this is difficult or something.
That's
it's
not
more,
what I meant.
Yeah, it's not even like, I don't get that demonic negativity. I just don't get that anymore.
Well, like you said, that definitely has to do with your intention. And
yeah,
how
I
you
believe
set
it
your
does.
intention and how you move forward with that. Is it also, I guess, a focusing of skill over the years as well?
I would say possibly, Chris. Yeah, I would say, that's a possible situation. I think that the more I've done it, I think that it's definitely helped me focus and stay more on a more narrow road, I guess.
Narrow
where
the
I'm not,
bandwidth.
and I'm not
in.
veering off, and so now there's not, more room for error, I guess.
Rifle instead of shotgun.
Yeah, I think so. And I feel very strong in my protection and my connection with my higher power, which plays a big role in that.
It does. I mean, whether you're following a Buddhist path, Zen path, doesn't matter. It's about your grounding and your grounding in yourself.
That's 100%.
And now when it comes to that, how does the presence of other people play into a session for you?
That's interesting. I'm going to give you an example. I do a lot of sessions for people that are looking for their loved ones. It's private sessions through Zoom. I give them a meditation for them to do. We get on the Zoom. We ask for the loved one. It is so rare. It is so rare that someone doesn't come through. And then I did this session a few months ago for a woman who her husband died of cancer, and I mean, this is like 2 out of 500. This has happened, like in a really weird way. And she, I can immediately tell she was very grief-stricken, which is understandable, but she was really needy. Like she really she was like, where is he and why is he not? I don't feel him around. He needs to be here with us and helping our family and all this. And I was thinking internally as I was like,
wow, that's rough.
That's rough to be calling on your loved one and acting like he needs to still be at home, kind of providing like a living almost. Like this man, died of cancer.
Yeah.
And he should be able to kind of...
That's a sad sense of abandonment.
It is.
It really is. It really is.
And she was just a little bit like...
Did that affect the reading?
It did.
Yeah.
And so he came through and he didn't want to talk to me.
Did he lay it down?
Yeah, he didn't want to talk to me, number one. He really wasn't in the mood to talk to me, one.
Wow.
2, he said, there's nothing but death around her. Like the feeling of death around her. And he goes, I want to travel the cosmos. I can't be there right now. And she did not accept that message.
Wow.
She was pissed.
Oh, man.
And so this is bull crap. Why would, and this is a weird story to tell, but I mean, I'm just being blunt honest. Like, that is like a 2 out of 500 situation. I mean, it's only happened one other time where the person didn't want to talk.
Yeah.
But man, and she goes, this isn't my husband. I go, okay, I don't know. Maybe it's not.
Yeah.
But the answers were they weren't like, I don't know you and I don't know who this is or anything. It was like I love you and I do stop in, but this is too much.
Yeah.
You want too much from me.
Too thick. And
I can understand that too.
Well, we have a tendency as people, period. There's that whole Jerry Maguire concept of you complete me.
Oh,
that is the heaviest thing in the world to put on somebody, dude. That means that you are not a complete individual coming to the table.
Well said. Well said. No, it's true.
That is a heavy burden to place on somebody.
Very codependent. Still on someone who's in the afterlife.
Yeah.
That's too much.
Yeah, that's thick, man.
That is very. Let the man explore the cosmos. The man died of cancer.
Yeah.
He's got to still live at home.
He couldn't have gone through more trauma before his parting.
Yeah,
you know.
And
do you find a difference with spirits that do die in that way? That die through a means of suffering or anything like that? Do you find a different connection with them?
No. I mean, if someone dies in a real traumatic way, drug overdose, maybe murder, a sudden car accident when they were on the way to something important or whatever, those unexpected deaths are really tough on the person in the afterlife at first. Because they're trying to accept what just happened. Yeah. Maybe they're looking at how their family is dealing with the sudden loss, and that's causing them pain.
Absolutely.
So there's all of that.
Yeah.
When you got someone that passes in their older age, that's been on the bed, that's been visited by the family.
White light family on the other side.
There's a lot of acceptance going on, and there's a lot of peace.
That's beautiful.
So,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean,
that's great to hear. That's really amazing. It's hard to quantify these things, we're left behind and they're left somewhere else. You know?
Right. But the evidence now, it's no longer just through readings that I'm gathering the information. It's not just through a feeling. It is a very much it's evidence now. I have compiled enough data to say this person, these type of people that die like this are doing better. These type of people still have some growth and some time before they're in the level of acceptance.
Yeah. And just before we got over here, hit record, you were having a conversation that I sidled up in.
Yep.
And you were talking about spirit guides, and even spirit guides in the world of remote viewing work, and the idea of, like, if you have a spirit guide, hey, ask them for your help in a session.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And, how does one, I guess, identify their spirit guide? A, does everybody have a spirit guide? B, how do you identify them?
I believe if you're doing nothing with your life, and I say that meaning like if you're staying at home and watching TV all the time and just barely, you're working and going home and not trying to do anything, not meditating, not praying, you do have someone, but I don't think they're going to be always around you because you're kind of in a very inactive state.
You ain't flexing it.
Right. Once you start getting some hunger to, go after some more spiritual stuff and start seeking, you will be sent, or that guide will come into the picture more. If you start working on a certain project, you could say, hey, I'm working on a project. Can my higher, God, can you send me a guide that can help me? You really got to have a connection with a higher power, regardless of whether, like you said, Buddha, Jesus, Allah, Krishna. I don't care.
I don't care if it's the tree next door.
If it's the tree next door, I don't care. But have some kind of grounding and connection, conscious connection to that higher power. Ask for angelic or spirit guide help. You will get it, and you don't always have to identify who it is. If you have a faith and you're building on that faith, keep building on it and keep trusting that you will be given the help. That's what my experience has shown me.
Okay. And how do you, I guess, identify the presence of your spirit guide? For those who are uninitiated, don't know that, like, Johnny just popped in. I mean, really just a couple moments of closing your eyes and focusing, bringing yourself to, the space within, behind your forehead, kind of like a little, I've always had this, especially after working with Deborah Lynn Katz, PhD, I've always had this little space that I can go to within my head. It's like a little bat cave. Yeah. And a place that you have constructed for your work.
Yes. And so I may check in with that and see if there's a guy there. Sometimes I don't see I don't see specific features or anything, so I just get the sense that they're there. Well, what if it's not them, and what if it's an imposter? I don't go down. I don't get that. I don't feel that, and I don't. I have a belief in my connection and in the light that I feel, and that's it. And sometimes I don't know what the heck it's all there, but I proceed forward with faith.
Well, and even keeping that thought in your mind, you are very well, once again, manifesting that.
Yeah. I think so.
Just by putting that out there.
Yeah.
Much like going into a paranormal investigation full of fear or something like that.
Correct. If you go, someone said last night they were afraid right in the beginning of the thing.
Feel free to hop on out.
And I said, don't go into it with that. You got to take a step back for a minute. If you're going to have fear, it's normal, but you got to let it go. You got to, because it really is the attraction for negativity.
Yeah, no, precisely. And an anchor for it. And an anchor for you at that point.
Yep.
As people, as this stuff becomes more and more popular, more and more mainstream, what do you think people can do to kind of separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, Joshua? What can they do to find proper investigators like you who are using proper method, who are journaling things, keeping spreadsheets of results, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of groups out there that are doing that. I'm not going to tell you that, I do see a lot of other people that are really analytical with their data and what they're doing.
Properly so. But.
If you would have came to last night to the investigation, or if someone was there, I state up front, this is less of a paranormal investigation and more of like a session.
More of an exercise.
And it's really just, it's like, so there's plenty of people out there, I got to tell you that. Use your discernment, intuition, kind of watch and what resonates with you. If you see, that's really the best way, is to watch something. If someone says, oh, you're fake, or what are you doing, or whatever, and I say, listen, check out my stuff and watch a couple videos, and you'll know just by watching. And if you don't like what you're seeing, or if you don't feel like it's real, then then don't watch anymore, or whatever. But that's rare that someone watches my stuff or in the videos and says, oh, this is crap. I mean, in a way that they could see that I just wear my heart on my sleeve, and I really just put it out there, and it's for you to
make of it what you will.
Yeah, make of exactly.
And you do wear your heart on your sleeve. This is much more investigation for you. This is a mission.
I feel it is, yeah.
And that is great to see, especially with the creation of the HOPE Paranormal app, things like that. Joshua, let everybody know where they can go to get their copy of Finding Hope.
Finding Hope in the Afterlife is on my channel, HOPEParanormal.com. The Hope Spirit Box app is free on iOS and Android. Download it and check out the tutorial video. The HSB Pro is available all on the website, HOPEParanormal.com. But events, the book, the app, I'm going to keep working with some institutes and trying to keep doing some of these conferences and sharing that work. Yesterday we shared that work, and it was really great. A lot of people received it. I thought so.
And the one thing I say regularly about this field specifically of paranormal work, remote viewing, it has been quantified, and these people know what data is.
Correct.
There are more letters behind people's names than any other field.
It's true.
Any other field.
I said it. I was like, I don't have any letters behind my name, but there are plenty of people in the room that do here, and I work with one that has, and it's just, I'm going to keep doing it and keep showing people and hoping that those people keep taking notice, because they're the ones that could maybe help push this forward in some way, in the right way.
It's amazing work. You're doing great things.
Thank you,
Keep
Chris.
doing it, my man.
Always a pleasure, man. I really enjoyed our conversation yesterday and today.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Let's have one over lunch.
For sure.
Well, while you're online checking out everything from HOPE Paranormal and Johua Louis, folks, make sure to stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is where you can go to catch all the episodes, like, subscribe. CuriousRealm.com/store is where you can go to buy not just Joshua's book, but the books from all of our guests.
Oh, yeah.
All of the tools that we recommend, things like that. I'll have to make sure to put a link up to HOPE Paranormal app in there as well.
Thanks,
man. Stay tuned through these commercial breaks, folks. We're going to go eat lunch. We're going to come back with a couple more guests as we wrap our coverage for the final day of PSIfest 2023 here in Charlottesville, Virginia, with the International Remote Viewing Association and the Monroe Institute. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to our final bit of coverage from the last day of PSIfest 2023 here in Charlottesville, Virginia. coming to you from the International Remote Viewing Association and Monroe Institute. Everybody here is getting ready to actively go to the Monroe Institute. So we are doing our final interview. We have, I'm sorry, I lost your Bob Beringer. I was just about to say, I lost your last name, Bob. It's just Bob.
Yeah,
hey,
good.
Bob.
Yeah, what about Bob?
But he is here with Vibravision. They are set up at the booth next door, and they've been showing an amazing video demonstrating psi powers.
Yes.
And it's pretty incredible. I guess probably about 3 years ago now, the show Superhuman, the movie Superhuman with Caroline Corey came out, and she premiered a lot of this stuff.
Yes.
And the idea that, like, people were like playing kickball with blindfolds on.
Yes.
Things like that. So let's get into a little bit of what Vibravision is and what it does.
Fantastic. So I'm here with Liz Elliott, and she's the representative for Vibravision at this show, and she's representing the instructor, Moss Mike, and also his partner, Maureen.
Okay.
And they have brought over an Indonesian martial art that was held exclusively for the royal family. And so this is stuff that dates back to primordial times. So you're looking at ancient Sanskrit, you're looking at, the pranayama side of it, you're looking at what were the Egyptians doing, what were a lot of these other kind of, Sifu masters, if you will. And so dating back from then, and they've incorporated multiple different stacked modalities. So you're looking at essentially a type of applied remote viewing in action.
Okay.
And so there are multiple different modalities to be able to apply remote viewing.
Sure.
One of those starts with ICU Academy over in Essex, England.
Okay.
Now, they specifically work with prepubescent children, and they use the pinhole technique, which is basically like a straw, and you open up from that pin all the way into being able to see through essentially your third eye.
Okay.
They don't guarantee success with young adults or real adults, right?
It's hard to guarantee success in that, right?
So not really.
I would think.
No, so actually
Okay.
there's a science to all of this.
All right.
And there's repeatable practices that allow for us to be able to embody really this intention, attention, and expectation that you'll learn if you do go to Monroe.
Yep.
So I spent 3 years on the board of directors at the Monroe Institute.
Okay.
And I trained with Joe McMoneagle for the Remote Viewing 1, and then also I was first in the class for Remote Viewing 2.
All right.
And the big reveal, without the spoiler alert, is how does the CIA do remote viewing? And it was really simple. Intention, attention, expectation. And then for me, the epiphany was, well, you know what? That's stacked placebos. That's the recipe for faith.
Yeah.
So according to your faith, so be it.
Yeah.
So if we get our prefrontal cortex, you go hypofrontality, then all of a sudden you're listening to your tummy, and your tummy will give you the gestalt.
Yeah.
Right? So then this is a repeatable practice.
Absolutely.
So the more that we sew back up our corpus callosum, then we develop new levels of physiological capability, new capacity. Now, what you do with that depends on your intention, attention, and expectation, right? How often do you hold space for this? Now, what's really cool with Vibravision, right, and specifically with Liz and what she's doing, is that you're now able to go through and say, how do we apply some of these other techniques? Kind of like Wim Hof, right?
Sure.
So Wim Hof and Stig Severinsen, they got multiple world records, and they're doing this cool stuff like pranayama.
Yeah, breathing technique.
There you go. So increasing vital lung capacity, right?
Absolutely.
So what are these guys doing at Vibravision, right? Moss Mike, Moss Nate, the brothers that brought this stuff over from Indonesia. And one of the guys, by the way, died on the volcano.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So had his NDE and then chose, looking over his body, to come back into his body and then bring forward this kind of psychic phenomena plus all of the practices that let us build up repeatable solutions. So what's cool is at ICU Academy, they're like, hey, let's do the easy stuff with the kids. And upon request, small previews for adults, but they're not going to guarantee it. When you train with Vibravision, you're basically saying, hey, let's go to remote viewing 3, right? Okay. So what would you do if you could say, instead of listening to a gestalt or writing a picture, what would it be like if you could go through and supercharge your body with hyperoxygenation and hypoxia, essentially Wim Hof technique stuff, right?
Sure.
Okay. And then apply that in physical movement. And so now all of a sudden you're like, okay, well now I can supercharge my body, and you can essentially push your chi, your prana, your life force, right? Or even the physics of your morphinogenic field. And then you push that out, you get sonar bounce back. And then you're able to go through and say, now how do I interpret what it is that I just experienced within my field? And so then that's really cool stuff on the Vibravision side. So vibration out, and then vision of how you come back. So that's kind of the Americanized term that they've begun to popularize. But this is all based on the Merpati Putti, the white dove is the translation of how do you create peace. Now what's interesting is that the Indonesian royal family, they practice in these ancient solutions, and that's how they got to be the royal family. So if you can spy on your people, then you never have disloyalty, right?
Yeah.
But then there was like a whole bunch
Easy
with
way
the
to get
islets.
rid of a coup.
Huge, right? So there started being like this genocide stuff, and so the royal family was like, we've got to stop holding this to be in power and just love the people. So it was this peaceful solution that allowed for us to all become a better version of all one. So kind of a non-dual solution, right? So ALL space ONE equals ALLWON. And so when everybody's all one, then we've won. So there's your victory. So what Moss Mike has been doing, is carrying on with the Vibravision tradition. And then Moss Nate is doing kind of private classes right now. So, they can come to you or, Mike can come to you, all the cool stuff. And what they're doing is really taking these ancient practices and bringing them into a way that we can actually have superhuman performance in a repeatable, consistent way for adults and everyone. And so what's really cool is if you look at the video, and then the ones on YouTube, if you just Google it, Vibravision, and then jaw on the floor, okay? Then all of a sudden you watch an adult reading a book blindfolded, but not just blindfolded. This dude's got like Band-Aids on that are taped his eyes shut, and then he's got not just a blindfold, but a mindfold. This thing's like 4 times bigger. So this guy's got 5 different levels of you can't see nothing.
Yeah.
And it's an adult, and the adult is now reading the book.
Yeah.
And then they've got these kids that are like picking up weapons, and then they're like, going through obstacle courses and then using the weapons and not harming anyone and then touching stuff. And then they're shooting and moving in multiple levels without running into stuff. And then they're being able to like win in laser tag. And then they're playing video games, and then they're driving cars. So everything that you saw in the movie, The Men Who Stare at Goats, which was a satire because it was like early, right?
Yeah.
So it's an early release. And they say that humor is how it's like a rubber sword. It's how you make a point without drawing blood. So at the time, if Hollywood went through and released this and said, this is real, people would have laughed it out. So then you must make fun of yourself to be able to then provide that. What I came here for today, to this specific side event, is you got Lynn Buchanan.
Yeah.
You got the guy that George Clooney played, right?
He's amazing.
Okay,
And
fantastic.
It's such great conversations.
So I'm talking with Lynn, and Lynn's amazing, right? But what is he saying? He's like, look, he says, the truth is, what they put in the one movie, okay, is a conglomeration of the whole unit's experiences over 20 years. And then, there's a whole bunch of posers, other guys saying, oh, I'm Lynn, the guy that George. It's not true. Lynn Buchanan, he's the guy. And then what was really cool is that I'm watching the movie. So I watched The Men Who Stare at Goats with Joe McMoneagle and like 20 or 30 of our closest friends in an RV class or whatever, right? And I'm looking at him and what I got out of this. Now, everybody, they may have got their own thing, but we're saying, hey, Joe, is this a true story, right? And Joe kind of responds back, and he's like, no, this movie's complete bullshit. And it was like, well, why is that, right?
Yeah.
And he says, well, that car over there, that one that was blue, he says, that wasn't blue, it was white.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So it's the color of the car, right? So basically it's endorsing the rest of the movie.
The minutia.
Right, yeah, exactly. So the meat of it
That
from Joe
wasn't that wasn't the name of the street.
That's exactly it, right?
Yeah.
So it's really cool that we got this like resounding endorsement from badge number 001, biggest psychic spy ever, cool kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then I've been praying like, so God, what do we do? As Joe's kind of moving into this more retirement kind of phase and enjoying his wife and life and surgeries and all of those things. And then what's cool is now all of a sudden, like Lynn's here coming to the surface saying, I choose to be the guy to be able to show these techniques.
Yeah. And
then you stack on top of that and you're like, hey, who happens to be here? The people are saying, let's take remote viewing and let's do the Men Who Stare at Goats movie. Yeah. Let's teach people to drive and shoot and move and apply PK remote viewing in action now. And the 2 white guy leaders, Moss Mike, Moss Nate, and they got a whole cadre of other dudes. Like Chris Harris is amazing. And that guy's got some Shiwaji, so like too legit to quit. But Shiwaji is this fulvic and humic acid stuff that releases human potential. So they call it the great carrier. So as you bring in and you bring more cellular energy, then you're able to release more and increase your vision.
That is remarkable.
Yes.
Now, for somebody to go through this, because of course, as Lynn says regularly whenever we have him on the show, like, everybody's somewhat psychic. Our brains are
third eye spies. So that's the big reveal.
Our brains are just big transducers,
Huge.
radio antennas.
Huge.
But like he says, anybody can be taught to remote view.
Yes.
Controlled remote
yes,
viewing.
Of course.
That style.
Yeah.
But not everybody can be taught to be clairvoyant. not everybody can be taught to, I guess, necessarily be precognitive and have a natural psychic ability.
So natural, right? If you
Yeah.
begin to look at this, like let's just say that you wanted to go through and to develop a military state.
Sure.
You might go through and have people that might be like the CIA where Tom Cruise is playing and they'd smuggle drugs in. They destabilize the inner city.
Yeah.
Then you might have a predatory Department of Defense that might actually recruit people that were traumatized.
Yeah.
And then if that wasn't bad enough, then you might have the Department of Defense exacerbate the trauma. So then when you tell people to drop, they drop. And if you tell people to shoot people, then they shoot people.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to be really successful with special operations and you would grow out your long hair like Samson or Thor or, any of these other cool dudes, right? To be able to build better intuition on the male side. So when you look at, there is a lowest common denominator. There is a mathematics. And Third Eye Spies from, Hal Puthoff, the rest of the guys, the cool CIA guys, right?
Yeah.
What are they saying? At the end of the documentary, at the end of the book, they're like, everybody's psychic.
Yeah.
So just start with that as a foundation.
Yeah.
Prepubescent children, they have not spent so much time away from source.
Well, they
right?
haven't spent half their life in a box.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And then being programmed in their brain
Yeah.
to be in their prefrontal cortex.
Yeah.
So what we're really saying is get out of your mind, move into flow state, okay, let go, because this one is 40,000 events per second prefrontal cortex. That's dial-up. If you ever
Yeah.
tried to watch porn over dial-up, it doesn't work, okay? So cable
You
modem.
go back to the old school GIF format.
Yeah,
is what
you
happened.
understand, right? That's exactly it, right? Yeah, so it doesn't work, okay? So then you just got to be real about this stuff, okay? But then
Absolutely.
right cable modem stuff, okay? So right here.
Yeah, the bandwidth
increases,
starts increasing.
subconscious, occipital region, okay?
Yeah.
But people say that our visual cortex processes information. It's not true.
Yeah.
There's brain cells in our tummy, okay? We've got a fiber optic sensor here. We've got a fiber optic cable, spinal column that goes down. And the brain cells that are in our tummy help us process.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that because for years I taught religion, Sunday school, things like
good.
that. And the one thing I
started there. My old man was a pastor.
The one
right?
thing, I was a seminary in my
Yeah,
first year
see,
in
that's it.
college.
Yeah.
And the one thing I always taught them was, despite anything,
Yes.
trust your belly button.
Amen.
When you walk
Go with
into
your
a room and you feel like somebody pulled the kite string,
That's-
pay attention.
That's it.
Pay attention.
Amen.
And there is that trust your gut. And it's
Huge.
interesting that you say that the two are
Yes.
utterly tied together.
Yes.
Let's get into that a little bit more. How are they tied together?
Sure.
And how can people, I guess, learn to kind of break that down? Because once again, science, everything, we have been told about everything, but it's in this box. And if
Right.
it doesn't fit in this box, then it
Right.
can't be.
Yes.
And now we're looking at quantum entanglement.
Yes. Spooky action at
Utterly
distance.
proved. Utterly
100%.
proved.
Yes.
That is exactly what
Yeah.
Hal Puthoff was
That's
talking
right.
in his paper that started all this.
Yes.
Scientists going home thinking
Yes.
about their experiment. Did
Yes.
I put too much in there?
Yeah.
And it starts affecting the experiment.
100%.
So,
So when you begin to look at it, right, you want to start from the beginning. We go physiology, neurology, psychology. It's all steady state, right? And we can talk about those at a deeper ontology or an ontological or a taxonomy perspective, right? Or you can go through and say, okay, well, after we get steady state, then we go positive psychology, psychoneural immunology, positive sociology, positive philosophy, positive economy, positive stewardship, and then positive politicking if necessary. So these are all the things that we can do in action. What's really cool about Vibravision is, to stay on point, is that they're integrating a lot of these modalities so you can say, hey, let's bring our tummy into like more than the whole internet, right? So they show that there are more
Yeah.
neurological connections in our gut than there are stars in the sky, and more neurological connections in our tummy than there are grains of sand in the entire beaches for the entire planet.
wow.
Bingo.
Wow.
So that's why you go with your gut. Your gut's always right. When I went through and did my first Special Forces mission, I went out and they were like, trust your gut. Okay? And I'm like, well, what's that about? They said, you got to be one with nature. I'm like, well, why didn't they teach me about that boot camp or in weapons school and even in the intelligence school?
Sure.
But you're going out there and they're like, if you don't become one with nature, then the birds of the air will alert on you. They'll tell the bad
That's
guys
right.
where you are, and the birds will tell them how to come and kill you. So you're dead.
Yeah.
Okay? Or you just go in and you'll tromps about, you'll make too much noise, and then the bad guys will hear you anyway, and you're still dead.
Yeah.
Okay,
No-
so the only way to survive is if you can meditate, calm your mind, and then don't offend the ecosystem.
That's right.
And then the birds of the air will assist you. You'll become one with them, and then they will become your integrated air defense system, and they will tell you where the bad guys
They'll
are.
alert for you.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So now what's really cool is that you can do draw DE, you can do all the military stuff, you can decide, choose, right, what your course of action will be. And most of that, from a recon perspective, is to avoid conflict so that you don't alert the enemy as to your true intent.
Sure.
Okay, so now all of a sudden we get that there's a military principle of becoming one with nature, also of listening to your gut.
Yeah.
And there's a buddy of mine, his name is Dr. Jeffrey Martin. He wrote a book called The Finders. And The Finders is really cool because the idea is like, are you a seeker or are you a finder? And if you find it, then you already know. So if you look at remote viewing happens in a coherent state.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we start with incoherence, okay, in your prefrontal cortex and your corpus callosum, and like, how are you doing this? Incoherence. Then you go into a state of semi-coherence. And then the magic can be perceived at low amplitude semi-coherence. Now, when you get to be fully coherent, then you get a chance to slide in any reality that you choose. And so there's a repeatable math on how to perceive miracles, be a part of miracles, and develop your superhuman abilities within all of us.
Absolutely.
And the real question is,
That's awesome.
Are we ready to get out of our own way? Now, part of that is, let's just look at physiology for a second. If you start on the basics of it, you would say, okay, what the bleep do we know? Might be a good documentary. You might
It's a good
say,
start.
Yeah,
It's a great
right?
It's a great primer.
Exactly, right? And so how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? Maybe that's interesting. Maybe the next one might be, everything's energy, frequency, vibration. The next one might be The Secret of Water. That's a really good documentary.
That's a beautiful one.
So,
Great.
and what's interesting is that at Oxford, now here in the Western Hemisphere, we say, well, water is 72 to 90%, right? That we're water, right?
Yeah.
But at Oxford, at the university with applied movement neurology and some of the cool guys that are over there, they actually went through and they said, you know what? We actually have water in our bones and in our cartilage. Now, here's the wild part of that. Because we know there is, but there's not the scientific measurement to find out how much. They simply remove that from the equation for a moment. So because there's water inside bones and cartilage, what they say is that the rest of us remains 99% water. So if you're 99% water and I'm 99% water, okay? And what's between us is this thing called humidity, which is also water.
Water.
Okay, then there's no such thing as separation.
Yes.
So this goes back on the seminary side to most people read, if you will, Hebrew, Greek, Aramaic, or only English, okay?
Sure.
But it turns out that the magician, the Pharaoh trainee, Moses himself, the Egyptian, okay?
Yep.
Because Moses is the true, if you will, non-dual player, okay?
Sure.
The Egyptian guy. Mm-hmm. While the whole country of Israel is out looking outside of themselves building a golden calf.
Yes.
So Moses actually, in this part of the Moses Code, the original cut of the Moses Code says, I am that, comma, so I'm non-dual, right? I'm non-dual, right?
Yes.
But if you force me to be, I'll also be duality. So if you want to go through and get really good at remote viewing or remote viewing in action like Vibravision, then you get out of your own head, right? And clearly I'm not paid by Vibravision. I'm not a Vibravision employee.
Yeah.
I do love and appreciate what they're doing, and I do love and appreciate what they're bringing to the world in such a way, right? So I can't speak on their behalf, but I can definitely share my experiences with these folks, right?
Yeah.
And the idea of us getting out of our brain. So it turns out, like, if you look at how does the military indoctrinate people? They have to do close order drill. Shave their head, get rid of their identity, and then remap their brain.
Yep.
Now, every time that you stomp your foot into the ground, you create an electrical overload, okay, that then creates soft tissue scarring in the back of your head. And they don't help you get rid of that. So we found a solution, ancient solution, Genshin Jitsu, because, again, after we finish that cosmic giggle, right? If you're in water in between us, we don't even call the water between us humidity. What do we call it?
Air.
Relative humidity, because it relates us.
Yeah.
That's the cosmic giggle.
There you go.
Okay. So then you get beyond that, right? So if you are 99% water, okay, because we just got rid of all the bones and cartilage, our inability to measure, and then we move into the next book is called 10% human, and 10% human says we're only 10% human DNA, and we're 90% bacteria. So how do you cultivate your biome, and where does your biome typically live? Is inside
in your gut.
Yeah,
your gut flora.
So that's how do you let your gut, which is 90% of who you are, shine through without reducing to cable modem. So below our neck, more neurological connections than the entire internet. So why would you ever, that's why the Bible says don't lean on your own understanding, okay? Acknowledge, right, the river of living water, acknowledge love in all of your ways, and then your path will be straight, okay? Because you're at a frequency of flow and love. So 500 above, according to Hawkins' scale, okay? Love, joy, peace, miracles, blessings, ineffable. Like, it had to have been there. Yeah. That's ineffable, okay? It was that cool.
Yeah.
Surrounded by miracles. So now all of a sudden, we get to the place where there's a hijack, okay? So again, what the bleep, The Secret of Water, this next one, 10% human, The body keeps score. That's where we build up soft tissue scarring, calcifications, crystallizations. You got to remove those. Jinshin Jitsu or body electronics from masterysystems.com. Very, very cool place to be able to do sustained acupressure, to be able to remove the energetic blockages that allow for us to be able to travel the stuff up our body. So physiology, neurology, psychology, right? So we're working that stack.
Sure.
Okay, so now that we're beyond that, The Body Keeps Score, very interesting book. We got to reset it. The next one after that is, quote unquote, This Is Your Brain on Parasites. Very much like This Is Your Brain on Jugs, like the 1980s commercial, okay, about how you fry your brains, right? Well, this one is that when we're infected with parasites, so look at the look doctrine, right? So you get two different parasite. The Bible says, my people perish for lack of vision. That's a single common vision. That's a non-dual vision. If you want a remote view, better, non-dual vision. Get your prefrontal cortex out of the way. Open up more bandwidth. Be able to see non-local information because you're not focused through here. But even from here, you don't perceive information in your occipital region, your visual cortex, the way that they talk about. We actually process information, so says Oxford, in our spleen, in our tummy. So we're seeing from our gut anyway. That's where the information goes, right? You get what I'm saying? So we go through, look at Wim Hof, look at anybody else, look at all of the other psychologists that talk about flow. Right? Get out of your own way. Don't lean on your own understanding. So now we have a guidebook that says, now that we choose to unlock, we can actually retie our brain. There's the Fifth American Ninja teaches Jeet Kune Do.
Yep.
Okay, in Gaithersburg, Maryland. His name is Michael Krifka. Very cool guy. He went from being a ninja master, weapons trainer, to then being a cool guy that teaches Kali, trained with the same guy that trained Bruce Lee. Yep. So Guru Dan Inosanto, and they teach cross-hemisphere martial arts where you go through and you establish a new connection, you reinforce it with a tactile response, and then you optimize it with an auditory. So every movement gives you 3 for 1. Now, if you look at women who had women's intuition, they're kind of cheating. There's a repeatable method, okay? What do they got? They got long hair. It's the antenna of the universe. They played patty cake growing up. They played double dutch. So they're already doing cross-hemisphere drills through their entire life. And they leave their long hair. And then guys, to be straight-faced, then we shave so we can be honest with one another when we're not actually using our psychic power to be able to be here. But if you look at, again, the Green Berets, you know, what are they doing? Special operations guys, MARSOC guys, right? SEAL Team 6. They're all growing beards. Better intuition. It's not just to blend in. Okay. Everybody around the world, the elder men with fully formed amygdalas and abdullah oblongatas, and you know that their, bodies are moving according to the way that men should move. And all of a sudden, they're laying a good foundation for us for how to be able to develop better intuition. So if you look at inner tuition, so it's like, did you do your deep work to be able to cultivate the space where you can then transfer information up, and then how do you put it in action? And Vibravision teaches that.
Well, and I guess part of the problem, I think, endemically with a lot of this is people's discouragement. People get discouraged very easily.
Would that be because they're in their own head?
And no different than like, well, I prayed for it, but it didn't happen. Was it supposed to happen?
Nice.
Was it supposed to happen?
But how's about the other one? It's the effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous person avails much, right? And the righteous is the alignment and the one. The effectual, fervent prayer, right? The fervency is your tummy, working like a subwoofer.
Exactly.
Okay? So if you have fervency and you allow it to come up, then all your prayers will be answered because according to your faith, so be it. So we actually have the laws of how prayer works.
Sure.
If we allow it to.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
that is get out of our mind. And what's really cool, there's a BioWell gas discharge visualization system that will measure the effectiveness of prayer. So they've got a Sputnik device that uses real physics from Russia. And if you have a stray thought, you create like a new multiverse, or you break down the current one with greater entropy. So we were over with, so Joe McMoneagle just finished his last surgery, okay? And so then he had like gangrene and all kinds of stuff in his spine, and they were thinking he's going to die. So they bring him in, okay, for like a top off with good energy. So they do Reiki energy, which, by the way, started from a Christian professor who then says, how do I apply Christian principles plus any others that actually work? And so you go over there, and we're sharing good energy with Joe McMoneagle. Now, I'm measuring this entire process with Russian equipment that tells us what's going on. As soon as everyone comes to a coherent state as a group, the entropy in the room goes to 0. The healing energy, the coherent field from everyone, from a quantum perspective, enlivens Joe, shares energy, allows for him to be in a whole better place. Okay, there's a reason why he did it. But then as soon as, like when you do the whole football thing, like you huddle, and then everybody says break, and you're done. Basically, as soon as they said, "Hey, break, we're done," everyone went off, and you could see the thought on the machine. There's a new thought. There's another thought. There's another thought. And all of a sudden, you get this decline, this huge decline in stable field.
Decline.
Right, yeah. And then entropy, if you will, goes through the roof. The breakdown. Yeah. So thought is entropy, right?
Oh,
and so what's really cool is that we actually get this new place of, if you will, creation. But what is it that we're creating? And are we listening to what already is?
Yes.
So there's really easy, repeatable math if we take time to explore the methods.
Sure.
And what's cool is that you got guys at Vibravision who are taking remote viewing and saying, okay, let's apply that. And that's beautiful. And we've also got other world record holders and cool people that do mind over matter, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't mind, it doesn't matter.
That's
so you have guys that like lift 1,003 pounds and 1,366 pounds and all kinds of stuff because they get out of their own way.
I have been preaching the doctrine on my show of a long time. You have the right to revoke consent anytime you like.
100%.
You have the right to, and it will cost you less energy to literally not give a damn.
Yes.
Than it will to be bothered by it.
Yes, 100%.
And now you have all this extra energy for other things to actually make good stuff
But
happen.
that almost sounds like the law of attraction and non-attachment, right?
Kinda.
Yeah.
But how do you get past that, once again, box paradigm of failure?
So
with
how's
somebody who's new to the system?
How's about cleanliness next to godliness? How's about the ancient scripture or the ancient text that says your body is the temple of the whole Spirit or the Great Spirit or the Holy Spirit, depending on, whatever doctrine, okay? So the idea is that if your body, again, that last book, This Is Your Brain and Parasites, if you're already infected with parasites, then how do you come to coherence? You can't. First thing is clean up your body. Look at walnut husk, look at ivermectin, look at other kinds of things that allow for us to be able to get better diaphragmatic movement.
Yep.
Let us increase vital lung capacity. Let us practice. Now, you can go into a cave for 40 years, or you may go and train with like Dr. Hill or Dr. Drew or Dr. Hart, and these guys like run BioCybernaut, or they run the 40 Years of Zen thing, which by the way came from BioCybernaut, or these other kinds of things where you can say, let me learn and visually have neural feedback so that I can come to a place of semi-coherence. The woman who's here has something called a mind mirror. They use that, Pennington, right?
Yeah.
Judith Pennington. So she uses mind mirror, which gives you a visual observation of, is my mind at work? You can use the Muse. There's a lot of different...
I love my Muse.
There you go, right? So now you're saying, okay, have I come to a place and I'm able to see if my mind is actually thinking about something? And can I use that maybe to do my deep work?
Yeah.
So one of the cool things at Monroe, they've got Tom Campbell who teaches My Big Toe. And so look, Tom won't brag about himself, but I got Air Force Master Sergeants that watched Tom put laser beams together that blew up shipping containers. Okay, like at Aberdeen Proving Ground.
Sure,
okay?
sure.
So now here is basically the CIA's #1 quantum physicist building the Star Wars system that doesn't exist and blowing shit up that he won't admit to, but that other people dime him out about. So completely unclassified, right? Because now I'm not connecting the dots there. I'm just saying that's interesting, right? But then he comes to that place of saying, hey, on the physics, there really isn't any such thing as time and space.
Yeah.
So if there isn't...
No, they are construct.
Right.
They are construct. We gave time its definition.
That's it. So then we can be the masters of time and space, right?
Absolutely.
We can be our own heroes guy, our own Hiro Nakamoto guy, right?
Yeah.
We get a chance to detach and slide into any cool reality we want. Well, here's from my experience. I went and trained with Dr. Hart over in Bavaria, Germany. And they said, we want you to find a time and space. This is really good for everybody because you don't need $1 million worth of equipment like what Dr. Hart has. But it's cool to watch. It's
great to have the
If you got the money and you want to go watch the cool thing, go hang out with him, right? So, but with that, I'm there, and he says, I want you to go back to a time that you didn't understand something, because hindsight's 20/20. And the further you go back and the bigger the event, then the more visceral your feeling will be now. So here I am, I'm on the machine, right? And we get there, dude, and I scored like top of my class in the Intel school, right? I've been certified genius for a long time. 70% of the certified geniuses failed out of the class that I scored top in, okay? So I get over there, and I find this guy, this Polish dude. Massive respect for Polish people, by the way. Polish dude has 3 times the amount of electricity that I have in my mind, and I'm a certified genius. And I'm going, what is that? I'm feeling like I got a 2-inch tool. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So then this guy, he'd been stacking modalities. So he's using binaural, solfeggio.
Okay.
Then psilocybin, LSD, ayahuasca, all in the same ceremony.
Wow.
I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
So like this guy's like awesome. Yeah. So we start off, he's running 1,800 microvolts of alpha. I'm running 400 and maybe 86. And I'm like, I got to be there. 3 days later, I'm there. Now, this dude's cheating, okay? Because in addition to the stack, he's also doing lingam yoga. Just basically dick yoga, right? So he's breathing all the way down, right? And then he's pushing all that stuff back up, which basically is Tumo or the pranayama breathing that Wim Hof does, okay?
Absolutely.
So now all of a sudden he's got more oxygen to be able to grow his brain back together. Yeah. So you don't have to do this for 40 years. In 3 days, that guy went from 1,800 microvolts to 4,300 microvolts. So normally, like a lie detector test would be like this. This dude was like Lucy. I mean, the whole thing was completely blacked out.
Yeah, just a square wave.
But by that time, when I increased my love and life force from 486 or whatever to 1,800, I didn't care anymore because I wasn't being competitive because I was already okay with me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what was really cool is that he says, go back. So there was a time in my life where, you know, like, I got locked out of my house, like my parents forgot about me. They went inside, they got high. There was this kind of story. And I got cold and my nose was running. I got hungry. And then there's a time where I stopped being hungry or cold or shivering. And so maybe that's like 10 p.m. And maybe by the witching hour, right? Like I'm shaking my fist at God and saying, this wasn't our deal. So like Doc says, hey, go back, right? And tell yourself. Turns out 4-year-old version of me didn't need an eloquent speech because I can't fancy myself to be eloquent by that time. Just showing up in my own vignette allowed for that 4-year-old version of me to be the hero and to go and have his beautiful life.
That's awesome.
And I watched that.
That's awesome.
Now, get this. From that moment where I repaired that break in my own timeline, I collected cosmic interest. And since me loves me, and while I was still there, I deposited more love, fixed the pothole in the road, added some joy and some peace, and saw the miracle of it. And then like a diving board, I collected cosmic interest, cosmic compound interest from then till now. It's 40 years later. And when that happened, immediately the electricity, life force, love within me went from 486 microvolts to 1,800.
Wow.
By me loving up on an inner version of me beyond time and space.
Yeah.
And this is what Tom Campbell teaches in his My Big Toe timeline, different kinds of experiences. We rise above love, and all the rest of it can be whole, and we don't get hung up with attachment on anything.
Yeah.
We're also able to listen to, if you will, what's outside or what's inside in a better way. So we get to tune in to what it is that we'd like. And that's what Chinese traditional medicine says that thought, from a morphogenetic field perspective, that thought is the thing that you tune into. And if you focus on that, then it will pierce into your morphogenetic field, okay? And then it begins, they say, with the skin, but it's actually morphogenetic. Then you get muscle memory. Then it goes into your bones. You feel it, right? And then into your marrow. So it depends on how long that you become the thing that is the object of your attention. So that's where it's really important in RV or in applied RV or what they're doing in Vibravision to be able to tune into the thing that is important.
Yeah.
And prayerfully, that's love or above.
Yeah, and once again, in the videos to see, like you're saying, kind of psychic echolocation.
Yes, it's exactly what it is, 100%.
And the fact of being able to feel an object in motion.
Huge.
You know, that's remarkable. That is incredible.
So increase the bandwidth, right? Increase oxygenation.
Yeah.
Learn to work in a hypoxic state. Learn to be able to essentially have an MAOI inhibitor through breath control that allows for you to be able to move out of your body through movement and then be able to be your own Overwatch, if you will.
Wow.
Right? So there's a technique. The other one is that psychic echolocation or chi or prana or life force echolocation, right? It's two different. Or you have the pinhole. All roads lead to Rome. There are many techniques. Yeah. Which one do you use today? Which one do you cultivate? And do you choose to just listen to your gut? Because your gut's always right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rarely led me wrong once I learned to trust
100%.
And even the fact of like waking up with answers to things, going to bed looking for answers to things and figuring things out.
So that's what Edison did, by the way.
Yeah.
So Edison goes through and has like whatever 1,000 patents. And what was he doing? He was moving into theta space, which basically rating the Akashic records, which they kind of got reinforced after that because some wild stuff. But this dude's going out with ball bearings and metal plates under his lazy boy. And he's thinking about stuff. So Edison was actually drawing out and patenting solutions that it was 100 years later before we had electron microscopes to validate scientifically what he was pulling out of the Akashic records. So we can pull non-local information from anywhere in time and space. And that's actually the name of the company that Lynn Buchanan has, is the remote view beyond time and space. So that's beautiful. Well, we can heal beyond time and space. We can live beyond time and space. We can regrow our telomeres. We can be any age that we choose to be. So what is it that we enjoy the most? And and what's cool is that you see people like Moss Mike, Maureen, Moss Nate, the rest of their guys, Chris Harris, a lot of their other instructors that are there, that have taken and applied some of these ancient techniques and brought them to the Western world in a way that we can visibly see and knowingly repeat at any age.
That is incredible.
Yes.
Awesome stuff. And really, really powerful, as you're saying, because, yes, we all have the propensity to be psychic. It's
Yes.
whether or not you have learned to flex the muscle.
Amen.
And learn to flex the muscle.
Amen.
Even meditation, anybody who meditates regularly will let you know, like,
Yes.
take a year off from it and then try to get back to that same
Yes,
place. It's going to
100%.
take you a couple months
Yeah.
to retrain the muscle, to lose the monkey mind,
Huge,
to get
huge.
back to that place.
Well, that's the
So-
cool thing about Dr. Drew, Dr. Hill, or Dr. Hart, or anyone that basically practices neural feedback. They got another place, Center for Brains, in Jupiter, Florida. Is super amazing. So that's Dr. Mike Cohen. There are a lot of places where people can do neural feedback, and then you can go quickly. So the idea is go into a cave for 40 years. Don't think about anything and let just, through basically osmosis, right? You're just going to grow your corpus callosum back by not doing anything. Or you can go and actively train, right? And then you wind up with a better outcome sooner. So all of us are psychic spies according to Third Eye Spies. All of us have the ability to cultivate and to reawaken and to remember, if we choose, to allow more of whole great spirit within us so that we can experience any number of miracles that we choose.
Incredible, Bob.
And you are. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it, man. I'm so glad we had this conversation. Let everybody know where they can go to find out more about Vibravision, where they can come to you if they need
So right
work
here,
or help.
Yeah, so you've got support at vibravision.com is what's on the flyer. There is a QR code, which maybe if we put closer, maybe
There you
in
go.
there, right? Maybe you guys can take that and maybe get some kind of cool, go there, register. They are running special discounts, right? So you can see this. So if you register with this or you contact Liz, I'm confident she'll honor the discounts and pricing. I think they're looking at like $6,000 a week. They've got 3 classes, intermediary, entry, intermediate, advanced. So you basically look at RV1 and RV2 with Monroe or a couple of the other guys that are teaching. They've got some other cool techniques that they're utilizing. And then you look at, hey, can you really take and apply these concepts in real life so that every aspect of your life becomes more and more and more of a miracle.
And a point of connectivity.
Huge.
Not just for yourself, but for everybody around you.
Amen.
It's fantastic.
It's time for us to move into a better non-dual state.
Absolutely. Bob, thank you so much for the time. I greatly appreciate it. While you are online checking out everything from Vibravision, folks, make sure to stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is where you can find all our everything. The knowledge vault full of declassified government documents is there. You can share your story on CuriousRealm.com/story if you have had a connection with the paranormal. If you're a remote viewer and need to connect with more people in the remote viewing community, feel free to give us a call, folks. Drop a line. We will get you in touch. Stay tuned. Next week, this week we had a great time here at PSIfest 2023. It's been fantastic. Next week we will be on the road yet again, folks, at Texas UFO Con. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned always. Thank you always for tuning in. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And remember, stay curious. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.